Coustas. Welcome to Conversations.
My pleasure, Vasili. It's good to be here.
Okay, let's talk about your inspiration, where you draw inspiration from. How much of your material, including Effie the persona, comes from real people, real experiences? Are there crazy uncles and aunties and cousins out there that inspire you for your material?
Look, I'm a people watcher. I love human beings. And I always say to my husband when we go to Greece, I don't have a single thought of my own because I'm too busy watching the Greeks. Look, I find the Greeks highly entertaining. Thankfully, Australia does too, through the work that I've done. But yes, I don't use specifics, but it's the beginning of what I build a character from. So it might be the pettiness or the outrageousness or the self-centeredness, or it starts from something I've witnessed and something that I've been captivated by. And then from there I build the character, I name the character, I find what the differences are, so it becomes more mine, less what I've seen. But it's the DNA is sort of there from reality.
Okay, so before Wogs Out of Work, ethnic humour, we'll call it ethnic with inverted commas, there were the shows like Kingswood Country from Ted Bulpett's point of view, and there was the ABC show like Home Sweet Home.
Yeah.
In hindsight, how important was this phase of, Acropolis Now, Wogs Out of Work, in pushing those socio-cultural boundaries in mainstream Australia? How do you look back on that?
I think it was really important, and I'm not saying that we're the one and only voice of our people. I wish there were more voices like ours out there, so we got a huge range of Greeks and ethnics and, because there are so many different character types out there. But Australia was desperate for an authentic representation coming from the source. And as cute as those shows might have been, I didn't watch them because I didn't really relate to them. But it seemed that, a lot of the country was really interested in the work we were doing. And Wogs Out of Work, it started with that humongous show. Stage show that people came to again and again and again, just couldn't get enough of. And then Acropolis was born out of that. And it was great to be part of the mainstream and to put our stories out there. Look, the main thing is, and you see this across cultural things, whether it's, the African American stuff or the Indigenous stuff, we need to hear the stories from the people themselves in order to get a real sense of truth. And obviously comedy is truth with an exclamation mark, but we need to hear from the source as often as possible across anything. And the source was us. There were a few of us, and we did what we knew to be true. And of course, in typical Greek style, we had a bit of salsa because it is, Greece after all, and Greeks invented theatre. But Greeks are larger-than-life characters at the best of time, whether on a stage or not. I mean, I'm still stunned by how big the Greeks are in every way. Philotimo, kardia, theatricality, generosity, outrageousness, drama, comedy, you name it. We're very alive, three-dimensional, passionate human beings, and that the race is that. And that's why acting was obviously going to be my choice.
And what about Effie as a character? How important was she? Because we were watching comedy from an ethnic female perspective, which was something very, very new at the time. How important do you think now, looking back at that time, was Effie at that stage?
Yeah, look, at the time I didn't think about it like that. At the time I thought about, just playing the truth of the character and, responding to the situations that were in Acropolis Now, which was such a brilliant show. We had Mimo, we had Jim, we had Liz, we had Ricky. There were all these different things to respond to. Sophie, her sidekick. There was a lot of love on that show, and there was a playfulness and an honesty, and everyone was in character, and each character was different. So you got a great array. But when I think about what she did from a female, ethnic Greek voice point of view, I've always grown up knowing how strong Greek women are. So it was not a shock to me. I don't know many Greek women, certainly of my mother's generation, that weren't strong. that weren't running the show. And I think that's why that line in My Big Fat Greek Wedding rings true when she says, they might be the head, but we're the neck that turns the head. Or as Effie would say, my mother wears the pants and washes and irons them too. So, you know, we give men, you know, the status that they deserve, and, you know, if they want to play alpha, we're cool with that. And, you know, the man's the man, fine, but the women's, you know, the women in the Greek culture are certainly running the show. So Effie was an example of that. She didn't take crap from anyone. She was kind. She was, you know, up herself. And, you know, she was a representation that I was really proud to put out there.
And Effie must be now one of the most longest running personas in comedy theatre, right? So after, you know, Barry Humphries's, you know, Dame Edna, I think you're practically it, you know. What makes that longevity so successful for Effie as a character?
Well, she's evolved. We still see the girl that we fell in love with, but she's evolved. Vasili, you saw the show. You know, she travels through time really well, and her image might be similar. That's her thing. She's the big head girl, but she hasn't lost sight of who she was, but she's moving forward with the times. So I think it's that. Also, I'm very monogamous. Not when it comes to food and places, I mean, apart from Greece, but to my husband and to Effie. And so I love her very much. She's a love letter to my childhood, to my working class roots, to all that I loved about being Greek and living in Australia, certainly in the first 10 years of my life. I loved what we were able to achieve together with the boys, you know, culturally in this country. I'm very proud of our legacy. But the character stays alive because I'm still so interested in her. And, you know, there are times where some people might say, oh, it'd be good for you to depart from it and do other things, you know, and I have done that. But nothing excites me or, you know, engages me to the same degree that Effie does. I mean, I can put Effie anywhere. I can put her in a stage show. Sure, that happens all the time. Most years I've got a touring stage show, which I do as Effie. But I can put her at Parliament House. In amongst the leaders of the country. I can put her in sporting, you know, with the elite sportsmen of this country, in corporate settings. You know, I can do International Women's Day and speak alongside Grace Tame and do stuff as Effie that no other character would afford me that privilege. And I'm not one that ignores a gift when I get one. And Effie was a gift. It came at the right time. It was the right combination of ingredients. Impacted on Australia and certainly impacted on me. And so I will continue to breathe, you know, comical life into that character for as long as I can.
Now let's talk about your new show, This Is Personal, at the Sydney Opera House, May the 25th to the 29th, 7 appearances there. There is no wig.
No wig.
There is no shoulder padded dresses.
Nothing.
There is no makeups.
No heaps and heaps of makeups.
Right. So what's going on? Tell us about the show.
Well, you know, as we all know in life, it's the stuff that scares us, that stretches us, right? We think we can't do something and then we do it and we go, I could do it. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, this show, where I go commando, you know. You'll see, you know, garnishes of Effie in there because she's such a big part of my life. But you'll see where my inspiration came from, well ahead of Effie. From my family life, what changed me, what shaped me. I became a mother late in life, as a lot of people already know. You know, I had a huge challenge in that journey. It took me 10 years and 23 IVFs to get there, but I got there. Wouldn't take no for an answer. And so I look at the world now. I look at the one my daughter's inheriting. And I look at the world that I came from, and that's what This Is Personal is about. And you know, I get very emotional when I talk about this, but the Opera House is the most iconic venue in the country, and I want the Greeks to see this show. I want the Greeks to not be tourists in their own city and come and take a photo out the front, but I want them to sit in those seats, to have a glass of champagne in the forecourt, and to watch me tell our stories to them and for us to share that experience. So I really am desperate to get all Greeks, wherever they are, in the suburbs, in the inner, in regional parts of New South Wales to come to the Opera House and watch me do what I believe to be a really bold, powerful and meaningful show that they would completely relate to. So yeah, I'm excited and scared.
Okay, so after the curtain falls to these shows, what do you want your audience to walk away with? That's
what I start writing a show with. That exact question. What can my audience leave with? And I'm very conscious of my audience. And they're broad. They're gay, they're Greek, they're female, they're male, they're young, they're old. They're everything from Maltese to Skippy to Lebanese to every type of sexual inclination. I don't do this as just to feed what I need to express, but what needs to be talked about. And I figure the role of comedy, certainly in how I've used it, is to take issues that are really uncomfortable and to aerate them, carbonate them with some laughter, give us a little healthy distance from the pain. And life guarantees you pain, but if you've got a great sense of humour, you'll survive it, and you'll be in the togetherness of common laughter and common tears. We are emboldened by it. So this is a very dramatic and comical piece, and I hope my audience walk away, as I do with every show that I do, feeling stronger, seen, more able to refer to things that are uncomfortable because of what they've heard and what I've given them and what we've shared together. So it's a big ask, but it seems to work every time, and I'm hoping it really will this time too.
Mary Coustas, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure, Vasili.